Growing up in my hometown of Suffolk, Virginia, I always looked forward to Friday nights. You see, that was the night my father would take the entire family out to dinner to one of three places. It might be Champs, the local restaurant, hamburger joint, or it could be Piccadilly Cafeteria at the mall. But if we were fortunate, we'd go to my favorite place, a drive-in called Moe's Birth Chicken and Barbecue. I loved it because it didn't have a dining room, which meant you had to eat in the car, something our dad would never allow us to do. But in this case, he didn't have a choice. So we'd tell our dad what we wanted. He'd go inside, place the orders, and come back to the car with these two big sacks filled with boxes of food. He'd pass out those hot boxes of food to me and my sisters in the back seat. And when you opened up the box, ah, you could get full just from the aroma of the food, and everything was just fine. Fast forward to the year 2020. I reached a major milestone in my life. I turned the big 5-0. And agree with me or not, when you hit the half century mark, more than likely you have more of your life behind you than you do in front of you. And with that comes a different mindset of expectations. And my mind was set on celebrating this grand occasion in the aloha state of Hawaii. Why, I even had a code name for my birthday celebration. I called it Operation Hawaii 5-0. And astrologically, things couldn't have lined up better. You see, I was born on a Wednesday, 2020 started on a Wednesday, and my birthday was Wednesday, September 16th. But alas, we all know what happened in 2020, something called COVID-19. So all of my plans to get a new suntan on Waikiki Beach went down the drain. But as many of you know, we Virgos are anal retentive, meticulous, detail-oriented sort. And like my Virgo sign, I always have a backup plan, a contingency plan. And that was to take a trip down memory lane to my old hometown of Suffolk, Virginia, which was a very good substitute because it allowed me the opportunity to go visit my hometown and catch up with people I hadn't seen in years and see the things that had changed or remained the same. For example, my first job where I worked at a grocery store called Food Line. Well, now it had been converted into a storefront church. And then there was the Little League baseball field where I played baseball and busted my nose wide open trying to catch a pop fly. Well, that was still the same. But one of the most drastic changes I noticed was my old neighborhood. Because as I was driving down the street heading to my old home, I noticed all these pop-up cookie cutter cul-de-sacs, subdivisions with people moving in. And I knew the demographics were changing and got a real face front look at it when I passed by my home and I saw that there were white people moving into my childhood home. And I understand over time that things change and people evolve, but it strikes you a little differently when you see someone who doesn't look like you moving into a place that you used to call home, that your dad built from the ground up, brick by brick, that you lived and breathed and enjoyed family and friends. So as I drove by, I did my best version of, well, a drive-by photo shoot to get some pictures of my home before leaving and going to my one final stop on this trip down memory lane. And that was to Moe's Birth Chicken and Barbecue. And when I reached the restaurant and crossed over that threshold, it was like stepping back into time. It looked exactly the same. It smelled exactly the same. And I ordered the same thing I did so many years ago, my favorite meal, Carolina barbecue, French fries, hush puppies, coleslaw, and a Sprite. And when they gave me my box of food and I ran back to the rental car I'd rented, I opened up that box and that smell, that aroma, I got full from it all over again, just like I did as that little kid in the back seat with my sisters, and everything was fine. 6 months later, I received a text message from one of my sisters. It had a link in it to a news article. And the news article said that Mosberth Chicken and Barbecue had closed down permanently due to equipment failure and troubles brought on by the pandemic. And in seeing that, I realized that yet another piece of my childhood was now gone forever. But it did make me realize something. Instead of thinking I wanted to be in Hawaii for my 50th birthday, as things turned out, I was exactly where I needed to be, at home in Suffolk, Virginia, for my last supper. Thank you.